You've probably heard of Afghanistan and you might have heard of Uzbekistan, but nestled between the two lies a very peculiar country. Also sharing its border with Kazakhstan and Iran is the weirdest country in Central Asia, Turkmenistan. Join us as we deep dive into this secretive police state, from its humble beginnings to even breaking a Guinness World Record. It's a crazy world, and we're about to find out why. But first, hit that like button and don't forget to subscribe so we can continue making high-quality content like this video. Let's jump right into it. As mentioned earlier, Turkmenistan is located in Central Asia, surrounded by 4 countries and the Caspian Sea to the west. The Karakum Desert covers around 90% of the country. The territory is split into 5 provinces: Balkan, Ahal, Mary, Libap, and Dasaguz. Its capital city is Ashgabat, but more on this bizarre city later. And here's some statistics, because statistics are fun. Turkmenistan's ethnic composition is made up of 85% Turkmens, 5.1% Russians, 5% Uzbeks, 1.2% Azerbaijanis, 1.1% Turks, 0.4% Kazakhs, and 3.1% other. As per 2021, its population was around 6.342 million, and its most populated city is its capital Ashgabat, but more on this later. Seriously. Another interesting statistic is Turkmenistan's position on the Press Freedom Index, where it sits right near the bottom, only being beaten by the likes of Iran, Eritrea, and of course, North Korea.
I win.
So, what's the deal with Turkmenistan? And why is it so commonly dubbed the North Korea of Central Asia? Well, first, to answer that question, we need to look at the history. Up until 1924, Turkmenistan existed in name only, having no political unity at all. Their organization was exclusively tribal, the tribes being either nomadic or subject to neighboring Persia. The first notable Russian expedition was in 1717, but was met with failure. However, in 1881, the last significant resistance in Turkmen territory was crushed at the Battle of Göktepe, and shortly thereafter Turkmenistan was annexed with Uzbek territory and into the Russian Empire. In the early 1920s, Turkmen forces joined Kazakhs, Kyrgyz, and Uzbeks in this so-called Basmachi rebellion against the rule of the newly formed Soviet Union. However, by the mid-20s, and thanks to Red Army campaigns and military fortune, support for the Basmachi massively declined, and in 1924, the Turkmen Soviet Socialist Republic was formed. During its time in the Soviet Union, it mainly served as a supplier of commodities such as oil and gas. Fast forward to 1991, the Soviet Union collapses and the republic finally gained independence, adopting the name Turkmenistan. Turkmenistan's then communist leader Saparmurat Niyazov stayed on as the head of state, replacing communism with its quirky brand of independent nationalism. In 1999, he also abolished any requirements for the president to stand for re-election, thus making himself president for life. Throughout the 90s, he maintained strong relationships with the Taliban until the September 11th attacks. Now, there's no other word to describe Saparmurat Niyazov than batshit crazy. He even wrote a book called The Book of Soul, which consists of his own spiritual teachings. It was then made compulsory to read in schools. Niyazov was also once quoted as saying that God himself told him that anybody who will read the book will directly enter heaven. Niyazov had ordered the book to be kept in all the mosques. If the imam or the cleric of the mosque refused to obey his orders, the mosque would be demolished. He was heavily criticized by the Muslim population, but none dared to do so openly. Why? Because just like North Korea, and many other countries for that matter, there is no free speech. But it gets even crazier. In the capital city of Ashgabat, the dictator had a statue installed that every day at 8 p.m. would play an audio passage of the Book of Soul. In 2005, he even launched his book into space. After gaining independence, it's safe to say that Turkmenistan struggled financially and unemployment was on the up. But of course, Turkmenistan had oil, and if there's one thing that other countries want, it's oil. Even to this day, Turkmenistan is one of the top producers of oil and gas globally, ranking 44th in terms of oil reserves and 6th in gas reserves, although that doesn't mean that money is going to the people of the country. An estimated 63% of the country are earning less than $10 a day, and this percentage is probably much higher, but it's hard to get a real statistic out of such a secretive and isolated country. In 2006, the president for life, Saparmurat Niyazov, suddenly died of a heart attack, or he was poisoned. This depends on who you speak to. With him died his cult of personality, comparable to the one of eternal President Kim Il-sung of North Korea. He was succeeded by Gurbanguly Berdimuhamedow, and then eventually his son, Serdar Berdimuhamedow, in 2022, establishing a political dynasty in Turkmenistan. Remind you of anywhere? Let's literally compare the two countries, North Korea and Turkmenistan, both highly secretive hermit kingdoms, so to speak, both only possible to visit on a group or private tour in order to get the visa. Both countries also don't allow its citizens to leave unless they're highly connected. If you're an average citizen of either country, getting a passport is virtually impossible. Both countries are extremely repressive and corrupt. As per the 2022 Corruption Index, North Korea came
171st
place with a score of 17, the best score being 90. Turkmenistan came in 167th place with a score of 19. This is actually an improvement, as the year before it came 169th place. Whilst this could just be other countries getting more corrupt, it is important to recognize improvement in both countries. Who knows where either country will be in 10 years' time? Both countries also have a strong sense of nationalism, with huge posters of their dictators plastered all over the capital cities. Whilst Turkmenistan does have internet, it's heavily censored and only an estimated 1% of the population have access. However, this is not on the same level as North Korea, where there is pretty much no connection to the outside world. In a similar vein, both countries control their press. You read the news they want you to read. Unlike North Korea, though, Turkmenistan does have some kind of relationship with the West. There's even an American embassy in the capital of Ashgabat. Speaking of the capital city, let's find out more about this crazy capital. Possibly the strangest city in the world. A city that is so completely unique that honestly one day I would love to visit. YouTuber Drew Binsky did a great video on Ashgabat, and I'll be sure to link this below. Wondering where that oil and gas money went? Well, here's a clue. In 2013, Ashgabat was awarded a Guinness World Record for the world's highest concentration of white marble buildings. 5 million cubic meters of white marble cover the city. 80% of all the buildings are completely white, but why stop there? The former dictator we mentioned earlier also made it completely illegal to have a black car in the city, so 90% of the cars are white. The dictator also hated the smell of dogs, so guess what? They were banned in the capital city too. as well as banning ballet, circuses, and opera. Nevertheless, the buildings in the city are absolutely crazy, with the Ministry of Education building being a giant open book and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs a colossal globe. Similar to the North Korean capital Pyongyang, the city is shockingly empty. But Ashgabat hasn't just got the one Guinness World Record, it also has the record for the largest indoor Ferris wheel on Earth, although rumor has it it's rarely seen actually moving. So, you've heard all about this crazy country, and you're now ready to book your flight. Well, it might not be that simple. The visa is notoriously hard to get, and as mentioned before, you need to be on a private tour. Although many top tour providers, such as G Adventures, Intrepid, and Wild Frontiers, offer tours to Turkmenistan. It is, however, very pricey, estimated at around $100 a day for just being there. Other than its wacky capital city, though, Turkmenistan does have one very cool tourist attraction. I give you the gates of hell. Located 3 hours from Ashgabat is the Darvaza gas crater. Whilst the early years of the crater are uncertain, it is believed that a Soviet engineer drilled into it in search for oil, but it collapsed, thus forming the crater. The engineers chose to flare the crater to prevent emission of poisonous gases, but underestimated the volume of the gas, and now there's a flame raging crater which has been continuously burning since 1971. However, plans were made in 2022 to finally extinguish the burn. As far as I'm aware, though, as of right now, it's still going strong. So if you want to see this tourist attraction, you ought to be quick. Weirdly, in 2019, there was a rumor that President Berdimuhamedow was dead, so he chose to dispel this rumor by appearing on state television doing donuts around the crater. He also saw himself as quite the performer, even releasing a rap song with his grandson. Seriously, you could not write this. So, what's next for Turkmenistan? Well, the country has seen GDP growth rates of 6.2% during 2022, with the country able to take advantage of high gas prices. Turkmenistan is also developing trade and transport relations with its neighbors, which of course is positive. That being said, though, I don't think we'll be seeing any major changes anytime soon. Poverty rates are still high. There's mass amounts of corruption, and they're still ranked as one of the lowest countries for freedom of press. However, time can only tell what's next for this country, and you can't deny it's certainly interesting. And before you click away, please click that subscribe button. Believe it or not, I'm just a hired
AI voiceover.
and I, for one, am relieved to not have to pronounce any more of these ridiculous names. Bye for now and stay safe, because after all, this is a crazy world.